Hello friends, welcome to my channel Biology Made Easy. So hello friends, today I'll be going to teach you the topic which we have left in the previous lecture. We have discussed about the characteristics of a living organism like growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, mount a suitable response like metabolism, etc. These are the characteristic or features which a living organism possesses. But now today in this lecture we will be going to classify these features as a defining features and a characteristic feature. Means कुछ features ऐसे होते हैं जो defining होंगे, कुछ होंगे जो characteristic features होंगे. So first of all I want to discuss with you what is the difference between a defining feature and a characteristic feature. A defining feature are those features which are correct for all living organisms without a single exceptions, but characteristic features are those features which are correct for a living organism, but some living organism may do not show that features. For example, in defining feature we can take an example of metabolism. So every single living organism have the metabolism, have cellular reaction inside their cells, cellular organization, or inside their body. But for characteristic feature we can take an example of reproduction. As you can say, only living organism can reproduce, but those organisms which cannot reproduce are not non-living. They are also living, but they cannot reproduce. So there are exceptions to this feature. Examples are male, sterile worker bee, infertile human couples. So here I have a table in which we have classified some features as defining and characteristics. So these are the features. Growth. Growth, here we can say growth are of two types: intrinsic growth and extrinsic growth. Intrinsic growth means growth from inside. All living organisms grow from inside. Our growth are not from the outside. Not if we get cut from in our skin, then it's not like skin in repair. Skin reparation takes place from the inside, not from the outside. So intrinsic growth is the thing which is possessed by all living organisms. Hence, it's a defining feature. Extrinsic growth are the features. That means extrinsic growth from the outside, growth by accumulation, which may be shown by some living organism, and it is also shown by non-living things like mountains, sand mounds, boulders. They grow by accumulation. Reproduction are the characteristic feature of living organism, because living organisms reproduce. Hence, it's the characteristic feature of a living organism. But those living organisms which cannot reproduce are not non-living. They are also living. Hence this feature is not a defining feature. It's a characteristic feature. So exception to this is mules, the sterile worker bee, infertile human couples. They do not reproduce. Metabolism, without any exception, they're defining feature, because every single living organism have the ability to show the chemical reaction inside their body or inside the cellular organization. So every living organisms are made from one cell or many cells. They have a cellular organization, basic structure and functional unit. They have cell as the basic structure and functional unit, and this is defining. Consciousness. Consciousness is also something which every living organism has. But one thing I want to add here is self-consciousness. If we talk about self-consciousness, it is only present in the human being. Consciousness is present in all living organisms, but self-consciousness is present only in human. So now let's talk about growth. All living organisms, whether it's plants, animals, or unicellular organisms like amoeba, parasites, etc., they all grow. So growth have two types. Growth can be from increase in mass or increase in number of individual. Like if you see in the bacterial colony, the growth is not in increase in mass. They are growing in numbers, and obviously number में बढ़ रहे तो mass भी बढ़ेगा. But this is something we can count by increase in number of individual, as in bacterial colonies, and increase in mass. These two twin characteristics of growth. These are the twin characteristics of growth. Multicellular organisms grow by cell division. Like us, we started our journey from the single cell zygote. Zygote divide and form embryo. After embryo, we grow by cell division. Cell division occurs in plants and animals. In plants, cell division is continuous, but in animals, it's seen only up to certain age, and cell division occur in certain tissues to replace lost cell. That means कि animals में सेल डिवीजन अप टू सर्टेन एज तक होता है, उसके बाद ग्रोथ स्टॉप हो जाता है. बट कुछ ऐसे सेल्स होते हैं जैसे कि लिवर सेल्स, दे कैन they can divide throughout life to repair the damaged cell, or like if we get cut, then there our epithelial cells also divide to repair the wounded area. Unicellular organism. If we talk about unicellular organism, they grow by cell division that can be observed in vitro. That means you can observe it in laboratory by performing under suitable conditions. In vitro का मतलब होता है outside environment, that means not inside the body. In a cultured media is the medium provided to the cell to grow in a suitable condition where that organism can grow. Lower organism, this is a fact that lower organism like unicellular organism, growth and reproduction are mutually inclusive even in alga, amoeba. Growth and reproduction, that means they divide. A single cell divide to form two cell. This is growth and this is reproduction. So both this thing are same, hence mutually inclusive events. But in higher organism, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive event. As you can take example from a human being, somatic cells divide, then growth increases. But when germ cells divide, it produces gametes and then produces young ones. Hence, higher organism, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. But talking about growth, increase in body mass, if we take increase in body mass as the criteria for growth, then non-living objects do grow by accumulation of material on the surface. Example, boulders, sand mounds and mountains. So only increase in body mass अगर हम बोलेंगे तो उसका मतलब है कि accumulation से भी तो कुछ चीज़ बढ़ती है, like boulders, sand mounds, mountains, etc. But in living organism, growth is from inside. Hence, सिर्फ ऐसे बोलना कि increase in body mass is the criteria for growth, this is not correct. So we have to say कि living organism growth is from inside, intrinsic growth. Hence, growth cannot be defining characteristic of a living organism. Condition under which growth can be observed in all living organism, मतलब it can be condition under which growth can be a defining, all मतलब कि defining characteristic तब होगा जब उसको एक्सप्लेन, पहले हम लोग की कंडीशन एक्सप्लेन करेंगे कि इंट्रिंसिक की बात हो रही है, एक्सट्रिंसिक की. और ग्रोथ, लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म कैरेक्टरिस्टिक, मतलब ग्रोथ जो है, ग्रोथ कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म का, बिकॉज डेड ऑर्गेनिज्म डू नॉट ग्रो. जो ग्रो कर रहा है वो लिविंग है, बट वी हैव टू डिफाइन फॉर सेइंग इट्स अ डिफाइनिंग कैरेक्टरिस्टिक वी हैव टू एक्सप्लेन द कंडीशन. Let's now talk about reproduction. Reproduction is a characteristic of living organism. मतलब अब only living organism has the ability to divide and to produce their young ones similar to themselves. It's not like non-living things also divide. Like we have one chair which will divide and soon it will form two chairs. It's not happen, right? So a living organism, only living organism has that capacity to divide and to produce their young ones. In multicellular organism, we mostly talk about the sexual reproduction, but they do so asexual reproductions. So in multicellular organisms, sexual reproduction, by doing sexual reproduction, they produce features more or less similar to parents. The progeny formed after sexual reproduction have features more or less similar to the parents. After asexual reproduction, in the progeny looks exactly similar. They are clones. Fungi multiply and spread due to spore formation. Yeast and hydra produced by budding. In hydra and yeast, there is a bud formation which ultimately form younger ones similar to them, so exactly similar to them. So planaria, flatworm, which is a true regeneration, we show true regeneration and it divide by true regeneration. Fungi, filamentous alga and protonema of Moses all show fragmentation. So this is a form of asexual reproduction, vegetative form of reproduction. Unicellular organism like bacteria, unicellular alga, amoeba. Reproduction is synonymous with the growth. मतलब we are not sure about these terms. Growth and reproductions are the same thing. One single cell divide, then we can say it is a cell division, that is it's a growth. Or at another point we will say that this division is is for the reproduction, that is increase in number of cell. Here, as we have discussed in the growth topic, that growth and reproduction in lower organism are mutually inclusive events. As there are many living organisms who do not reproduce, like mules, sterile worker bee, infertile human couple. So we cannot say that reproduction is a defining characteristic. मतलब जो reproduce कर रहा है वो ही living है बस, या फिर all living organism can reproduce. No, there are exceptions. Hence reproductions are characteristic features. Human reproduction cannot be all inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproduction of living organism. That means how reproduction is a characteristic feature of living organism. So because no non-living object is capable of reproduction, as I have cited the example about the chair. कि आज हमने एक चेयर रखा, कल दो चेयर में चेंज हो गया, फिर आज हमने कोई चीज़ लाई, बुक लाई, अगले दिन वो बुक दो हो जाएगी, डबल हो जाएगी, ऐसा नहीं होगा, बिकॉज दे आर नॉन लिविंग थिंग्स डू नॉट डिवाइड एंड डू नॉट प्रोड्यूस देयर सिमिलर वंस. Hence reproduction is actually a characteristic feature of living organism, but we cannot say it is a defining characteristic, because defining तब होता जब कोई exception नहीं होगा. But there is exception, we can say here is exceptions. Stay tuned for the next lecture. Thank you so much.